function like this needs what's called a parameter, or an input, a variable. In this case, we're going to tell play what number on the keyboard, if you imagine a piano, what note you'd like to play. So I'm going to type in play 70 here. 70 is actually middle C. There are 88 notes on the keyboard, and 70 is right smack dab in the middle. These numbers go from 0 to 127. That's about as high as you can get. We're going to stick between 70 and 90. So if I go ahead and run that, you should hear a beat. Well, that brings us to some other interesting parts of the interface. Here on the right, you can see that we have a log. And what a log does is it shows you everything that the computer is doing as it happens. So it can kind of get overwhelming, but if you read through it, you can see that at time 0.0, the Sonic Pi environment produced a beep with the note 70. That gives us a single note. And that is the entire basis for creating music using code. From here, we might need 2 notes to make a song. That's typically how music works. So I'll add another play function to the list here of instructions and give it a different note. This time it's 80. So play 70 might give us a note that sounds like beep. And because 80 is higher than 70, it'll go up. It'll go beep. Something similar to that. This will happen line by line. So the computer starts here, and then it goes here. What's very interesting, though, is when we run this, you will only hear one beep. And the computer goes through these instructions so fast, this is actually a chord. You can see here on the log that it showed both of these notes played at the exact same time. And that doesn't always work when we're trying to create a melody, for instance, because we need notes that come after each other. So here, I'm going to tell the computer to pause between instructions by using the sleep function. And by adding the 1, we tell it play note 70, sleep for 1 beat, and then play note 80. What that'll do is give us 2 notes, one after the other. It sounds like 2 beeps. And if we look in the log, we can see that, in fact, there were 2 beeps at 2 different timestamps with 2 different notes. So that's a song. Congratulations. With 3 lines of code and 2 beeps, you have now created your first coding environment song. From there, it gets even more fun. We can add more notes with a simple structure. Here we'll have 3 notes. Go ahead and run that, and you'll hear 3 beeps, one after the other. So from here, it's very easy to find a very basic melody, such as Mary Had a Little Lamb or the Alphabet Song, something along those lines, and code it out using the note values that you would find in sheet music or MIDI, other sorts of popular forms of sheet music. Excuse me. And you can mess with these values. So in this is your song right here. This whole thing is your song. As it goes through, you can change these values and start to debug them or play with them and get the notes that you truly want. So simply by changing the numbers, we can change the melody. It's very simple. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone follow along and try that. And I hope that you can post what you've written in the chat for everyone else. I'm going to post this in the chat here, so go ahead and copy and paste it into your Sonic Pi, and you can listen to what I've coded. So what this allows for is, as you create your songs, you can share them with your friends very easily, and all they have to do is go in and edit these numbers, and they can create their own music. And Sonic Pi has a fantastic tutorials library, which is down here in the help section. I'm going to go ahead and find us the examples, and show you guys what Sonic Pi is truly capable of. Let me... Damn it. 1 second. So if you were here when I started, you might have heard an amen break. And that's a very powerful form of sampling that's possible within Sonic Pi. However, you don't need a whole lot of samples in order to create good music. So using a simple block of six lines of code here, we can create some interesting bloops and bleeps that could be classified as music. Let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like. You can find these examples on Sonic Pi's website, and all you have to do is copy and paste them into the editor. They're very easy to work with. And what's great is you can change the note values or the mix values or any other sort of variable very easily. So if we want to change the number of octaves, we can just pop that in and get a whole new song. You might notice that there's 9 different buttons at the bottom of the editor. And what these are called, they're basically Chrome tabs. They're called buffers. And each one is exactly the same, except they let you run code in parallel. So much like Ableton lets you run scenes, this will let you run code side by side. Make sure to stop your other tabs if you decide to play another buffer. Uh-oh. Syntax error. Let's see if this works. Oh. Oh, see, I'm missing a line of code. This block of code, stolen from their website, attempts to emulate the sound of Tron bikes. So, from a few simple beeps to an entire block of code like this, you can get a lot out of this program in just a couple lines of code. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to create a song from scratch in Sonic Pi, just like you would Ableton, Pro Tools, or any other DAW. Go ahead in your window, toggle Help. That will bring up the Help menu down at the bottom, which will bring you to the Welcome to Sonic Pi instructions page. This is a fantastic environment for walking through step by step how Sonic Pi works. We have already gone through your first beep, which is 2.1. So here we learn that the play function will let you play a single note at different note values. From there, we can string multiple play functions together to create a chord. And by putting the sleep function in between each play value, excuse me, we can create a melody. Now, some of you might be more traditionally music-minded, and you'll see that Sonic Pi does have support for actual note names. In this case, C, D, and E. You'll notice that each of these values has a colon in front of it. This tells Sonic Pi that you're using a human-readable value that then gets translated back to a number, just like this, and then gets played back through Sonic Pi. Now, if you're familiar with any sort of instrument, you know that octaves go up the keyboard. And the higher the octave, the higher in pitch your note will sound. And those are typically denoted with a number after the note value, as you can see here. So if we want to play E4, just tack a 4 onto the end. If you want to play C3, there you go. D5, easy enough. And what this allows you to easily do is harmonize. So just by changing these values, we can keep the same note, but change the octave sort of programmatically. And that's really powerful as you dive into Sonic Pi. You can create any sort of melody that you want, and then turn it into a bass line with a different synth, or arpeggiate it however you'd like. This is just a really important trick to understand as we move forward. But no music is music if it's only played on the same instrument, right? And in order to change the sound of different code values here, we're going to use a very simple function called useSynth. Now what this function does is it brings up a list of built-in synthesizers that you can use to create different melodies within Sonic Pi. So for this case, let's try chip lead. So this is sort of a chiptune based 80s style synthesizer. And we can see, if you remember the beeps, the boring beeps that we've been playing with, you'll hear something different when I type in play 70 now. And you can see that the changes have been reflected in the log. Synth chip lead played note 70 at timestamp 0.0. Simple. We can add some notes to this using multiple different values. So if you want to use numbers, that's fine. If you want to use something like, D5, that's also okay. Just make sure to put that colon right there in front of it. From there, you can hit run and listen to your tune. Now, if you want to hear what two different synths sound like, you can use the use synth function again in your code. So if you go down here and you type use synth again, and pick a different one, in this case, piano, any note underneath that will inherit that value. So we can play the exact same melody by copying and pasting it. However, because of this use synth change on line 13 versus the use synth function on line 1, we'll get two different sounds. Congratulations, you just played a song on two different synths using Sonic Pi and using code. It's not very hard. Whoop! Thank you. From there, you can add all of the traditional parameters that you would find on a synthesizer. For instance, pan and amplitude. Pan is how the music shifts from left to right. And that's a very easy thing to add in Sonic Pi. Let's hope it comes out on the stream, but I think you'll find something interesting. Pan in Sonic Pi goes from -1 to +1, with -1 being all the way left and +1 being all the way right. And from there, if we want to change individual notes, all we have to do is type pan 1. That will put this note 70 coming out of the right speaker. And if we want to, add some cognitive dissonance to our melody here, we can change the next note to come out of the opposite speaker with a -1 value. And pan, in this case, is a parameter. It's just like any other knob that you would find on a traditional synthesizer, except you put it within the note that you'd like to play. Here, after you type a comma and hit space, you can see all of the traditional synthesizing parameters that you would normally find in any other DAW. Attack level, decay, curve, on, pan, pitch. All of these can be easily tuned with a simple value, such as 2. I'm not sure what this is going to sound like, or if it's going to come out in stereo, but let's try it. So, let's check our log and see what happened. Up here on the right, we can see that 6 notes were played. Three on the chip lead, and 3 on the piano. And you can see, interestingly, I forgot a sleep 1 in between this play function and this play function. So both of those notes actually came out as a chord playing at the same timestamp here. I'm going to rectify that. This is basically debugging. So I'll go ahead and add a sleep 1 right here in between this play and this play, so those two notes don't meld together. And from here you can see that the 6 notes played on the piano, which don't feature any additional parameters, were played sort of stock, as the preset came. However, the 3 notes that we did add parameters to on the chip lead reflect those changes in values right here. So as you dive into Sonic Pi, you'll be able to automate those note values with functions. So f equals x plus y plus b. I'm not that great of a mathematician, but all of those can be automated over time using various math equations, which is very interesting and a lot of fun. So from there, I'm going to show you guys how to recreate a very basic song in Sonic Pi. In this case, we'll start with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is a very, very basic sort of beginner song that almost everyone learns on guitar, piano when they're first starting out. And much like learning a new instrument, or learning Sonic Pi, which is actually a live coding environment pretending to be an instrument. So the very basic structure of a melody in Sonic Pi, as we discussed with the play function, can be used to recreate any melody that you can think of. In this case, it's C, C, G, G, A, G. I'm not the best voiceover coach here, but you get the gist. So, to recreate Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, we're going to use the play function. Put a little colon here, and type C4. Gonna add a sleep function in there, and then play the same note again. That'll give us the first twinkle, twinkle. From there, we go up a couple notes to a G, and repeat that twice. So, for the sake of time, you can copy and paste that note in. Let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. Dun, 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 dun. You can see that just using the play function and sleep, we've recreated half of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. To add the rest in, we can use the play function again, and this time we're going up to A5, which is a different octave than G4 and C4. So I'm going to add that in as A5. That's the next note after G4. It's a different octave, so we reflect that with a value change right there. It's the same note over again. And we come back down to G4. The great thing about Sonic Pi is you can copy and paste blocks of code. And those blocks of code are music. So you can copy and paste your music almost anywhere, edit the parameters, and get something new, which is great. So you can remix your friend's code. All they have to do is send you a text file with the code in it. You can load it up in Sonic Pi and remix it. From here, we should have everything we need to hear the very first measure of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. And again. Very, very easy to recreate these melodies. So what I would encourage you to do is find your favorite song, find the main melody or the guitar solo, something very similar, where you can pick out a couple notes and try and recreate it in Sonic Pi. From here, we can try a couple different synthesizers using the use synth parameter. And let's try something different. Let's try Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on a Prophet. Let's see what that sounds like. We can even split it up by adding another use synth halfway through. In this case, Pretty Bell. We can get two different synthesizers on the exact same block of code. So this will play half using one synthesizer and half with the other. So, sleep, play, and use synth are the very basics of playing a single note, playing multiple notes at the same time, playing different notes over time with space in between, which is a melody, like we've done here, and using the synthesizers built into Sonic Pi to get different sounds. Those are the very basic building blocks of all music. And here, in 30 minutes, you've learned how to code with music. It's very simple. Now, the fun part, we can create loops and functions within Sonic Pi to automate a lot of this process. This is where the fun comes in to what Sonic Pi can do. So I'm going to go ahead and load another example from their website called Wob Rhythm. And we'll take a look at all of the different functions that Sonic Pi can do. So, based on this block of code again, there's a couple different things going on. First, we have with effects, and then an effect. So this is similar to adding a guitar pedal to your guitar, or turning up the reverb on your amp. We're simply adding reverb to whatever this block of code does. And you can see in this case, we're adding wobble and phase to this block of code. We're also using the sample function, which will play a sample. There are plenty built in, and you can also specify your own. And we're also playing this bass sample at a rate and an amplitude that's custom. So given all of this, let's hear what it sounds like. That sounds like a wobble. From there, let's say we want, I don't know, to change something. There's a bunch of numbers here. The rate, sounds pretty interesting. So let's see what happens if we change that to 0.5 instead of 0.8. Do you hear the difference? It's very simple. You can tune all of this to your liking and make music as you see fit. That's the great thing about the examples. Oops, sorry. Sonic Pi has a whole library of built-in examples. If you go to the bottom left here, on 5 or 6 tabs, tutorial is the very first one where you can scroll through and teach yourself more and more about the different code. But what I would highly suggest is finding an example in the second tab that you like. So here, we can find one that sounds Filter D&B, coded by Sam Aaron, the creator of Sonic Pi. And all you have to do is drop this into a new buffer, paste it in, and listen to it. So, we have a very simple sort of D&B, drum and bass song. From there, you might see some new functions in here. Let me go ahead and grab this. So we have live loop with effects, sample, sleep, control C, cutoff. It gets pretty complex. And so the best way to teach yourself is to go through and start to change some of these notes and see what the music sounds like after that. From there, if you'd like to learn more about a particular function in your code, simply dive in back to the tutorials, find what you're looking for, find the help page, and you'll find myriad examples built in that'll help you learn how to code using that particular function. Overall, Sonic Pi is a very extensible environment that lets you code almost anything that you could produce musically, using synths, samples, and anything in between. What's great is it lets you live code. So if you have code playing, like this, you can change the parameters on the fly. So you can edit the number and just hit play again. Sonic Pi is a very extensible environment that lets you perform live or create music. You can record what you output within Sonic Pi right here. Release it as a noise EP on SoundCloud and get 5 likes. It's up to you. From there, that should be everything you need to get started with music coding. So I've been Mitch Chaiet. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and open up Q&A in the chat. If there's anything that you'd like to see, I know we only have a handful of people, so please come in and post your questions, and I'll go over them one by one using the time remaining over the next 5 to 10 minutes. So connecting to visuals, let's talk about that. There's two ways to do that, just like any other program. One is through MIDI, which is very easy to do, and the other is through audio, which is also very easy to do. Within Sonic Pi, there's plenty of ways to route audio output to any sort of Resolume or visuals focused program that will let you generate audio reactive visuals from what you're doing. But if you're trying to go the programmatic route, the best way to do that is through MIDI. Forgive me 1 second. So I would definitely suggest checking out MIDI in and MIDI out. This shows you how to send MIDI events to any other program that you'd like to do. Receiving OSC and sending OSC is also important. OSC is more useful for Maxim SP or other programs which utilize the protocol. So from within Sonic Pi, you can actually use these to affect those programs with your code. So Sonic, you have to sort of build it yourself, like with everything here, but it's very easy to do. There are also time states, which work sort of across buffers. They're very similar to the different columns in Ableton that show you and sync. Ableton syncs your music together across columns. Time states also do that, and you can use these to send time values to your various functions in the visual software that you're using. So you can incorporate them just like any other function within the editor, and automatically bring those visuals to light when you're coding. There are, if you really want to dive in, there are some visual synthesizers that operate very similar to Sonic Pi that I really can't speak to, but I think one is called Waves, which has 3 V's in it. I'm not sure. But there's plenty of ways to do that with whatever visual program you choose, and it can be entirely automated. Anyone else have any other questions? Please post them in the chat. I will get to them. Alright, well it sounds like we've reached the end of the live stream for me, so please get in touch with my Instagram. It's at MitchBookPro. You're welcome. You're very welcome. This is a great way to expand your knowledge of code in a very sort of accessible way through music, using knowledge that you might already have if you've ever picked up a piano or guitar. So hopefully I made something hard a bit easier for you, and I'd love to hear anything that you might create. So go ahead and get in contact with me and follow me at MitchBookPro on Instagram, and feel free to DM me and send me what you've made. So thanks again for tuning in. None of this would be possible without a couple interested minds and some hacking. So hack away. See y'all soon.